The rain does not fall here. It assaults. Sheets of water hammer Interstate 95 with a kind of biblical fury that makes drivers pull off and wait. That makes sensible people sit in gas station parking lots with cups of bad coffee and count the seconds between lightning and thunder. The asphalt has become a slick, reflective mirror, swallowing the broken white centerlines whole, turning the road into a long black ribbon of sky. The pine trees on either side of the highway bend and shudder in the gusting wind. Their tops disappear into the low, churning cloud ceiling. There is no moon. There are no stars. There is only the highway, the rain, and the absolute merciless dark. A single pair of headlights appears from the south. A dented 2008 Honda Civic, the color of faded pewter, one hubcap slightly off-center. A small crack in the passenger side mirror that has been there so long it has become invisible to its driver, moves through the downpour at exactly 62 miles per hour. Not 65, not 58, 62. Law-abiding, careful. The speed of a person who has nothing to hide and everything to protect. The car is invisible in the best possible way. The interior smells like rain-damp upholstery and the bottom half of a gas station coffee. The cold, bitter residue of a cup that was good 3 hours ago. The paper cup sits in the cuff holder. A burner fern occupies the passenger seat. A road atlas. Actual paper, the kind no one uses anymore, is folded open on the dash, though it hasn't been consulted in 200 miles. Behind the wheel sits Alana Hayes, 38 years old. Brown eyes that are a shade lighter than her skin, the kind of eyes that notice everything and betray nothing. She could be beautiful. Is beautiful in the way that capable, intelligent people often are when you look closely enough. But tonight, she has worked against it. Tonight, she is Kesha. Kesha wears ripped jeans. Washed so many times, the denim has gone the color of old sky. Her hoodie is faded, oversized, the kind of garment that says someone bought this new once, for someone who was smaller and cared more. It is the color of concrete that has been rained on for years. Her hair is pulled into a messy bun that speaks of 2-day-old effort and zero investment. No jewelry except for one thing. On her left wrist, a battered digital Casio watch. Plastic strap, cracked display face. The screen reads 2314 in blocky green numerals. She hums quietly to herself. Something without a name. A low, tuneless sound that is less music and more a way of existing. A habit from a decade in the field, when silence in an undercover vehicle becomes its own kind of noise. Her eyes move to the rearview mirror. Blue lights. She does not flinch. She does not curse under her breath. She does not grip the wheel tighter or feel the cold jolt that civilians feel when law enforcement appears in their mirrors. She simply exhales. One clean, controlled breath through her nose and begins to slow the vehicle with the practiced naturalness of a woman who has done exactly this 100 times. On purpose. She guides the Civic to the shoulder, rolls to a stop, turns on her hazards. The orange pulse of them is swallowed almost immediately by the rain. She waits. The patrol car sits 15 feet behind her, lights strobing. The headlights are high beam and brutal. The driver's side door opens. Officer Strav Gers, Bjorshul Gans, steps out into the rain. He is 41 years old, though he carries himself as a man who believes he has earned the right to be timeless. His buzzcut is military tight, gray at the temples, and nowhere else by intention. The temples have been allowed to go gray because gray is distinguished. The rest has been managed. His jawline is the kind that sculptors used to be paid to create. His uniform is pressed with a precision that does not happen by accident. He wears the look of a man who has polished every surface of himself because the surface is all he has ever cared about. He does not hurry. The rain soaks him in seconds, darkens his shoulders, runs in rivulets from the bill of his hat, and he does not quicken his pace by a single step. This is deliberate. The rain does not govern him. Nothing governs him. His hand rests near his belt as he approaches. Not on his weapon, just near it. A suggestion. A landscape. He arrives at the driver's window, does not bend at the waist to look in, stands at full height and taps the glass once with one knuckle. Hard. The rap of a knuckle on glass in the rain sounds like a stone being dropped into still water. Alana rolls the window down. Rain immediately spits into the car, cold and sharp, dotting her hoodie and the burner phone on the passenger seat. She looks up at Vance, or rather, up at the blinding tactical light he has clicked on and leveled directly at her eyes. She does not squint. Vance. No greeting, no preamble, no acknowledgement that she is a human being. License. Registration. Insurance. Alana, good evening, officer. Vance, I didn't ask how your evening was going. License. Registration. Insurance. She reaches slowly into the glove compartment, slowly because she knows the choreography of this, has studied it, has lived it, and produces the documents. The driver's license reads Cachet Mari Lawson. The address is a street in Macon, Georgia, that was verified by 3 separate federal analysts and exists at exactly the level of real that it needs to. The insurance card shows a real policy number attached to a vehicle that has never technically belonged to anyone living. The paperwork is immaculate. It would pass anything short of a federal database query. Vance snatches it from her hand. He examines the license under his flashlight. The beam still angled toward her face. Vance, where you coming from? Alana, Savannah. Vance, where you headed? Alana, Richmond. Vance, long drive. Alana, yes, sir. He walks, a slow circle around the Civic. Deliberate, theatrical, the orbit of a man performing authority for an invisible audience. He crouches near the rear bumper, studies the plate, straightens and taps the taillight with one knuckle, looks in the rear window with his flashlight. He is not finding anything. He is not looking for anything. He is building a story. He returns to the driver's window, leans slightly. Finally, now that the story is ready. Vance, I'm going to be honest with you. Alana, please. Vance, I smell marijuana. A beat. There is no marijuana. There has never been any marijuana in this vehicle, which has been swept by federal evidence techs twice in the past 4 days. The car smells like rain and the memory of coffee. Alana, that's interesting. I don't smoke. Vance, already reaching for her door handle. Step out of the vehicle, please. The please arrives like a door closing. Alana, officer, may I ask the basis for? Vance, I said, step out of the vehicle. Now. She opens the door slowly, swings her legs out, stands into the rain. The downpour takes her immediately. Her hoodie is soaked through in under 10 seconds. Hair that was a careful bun becomes a scattered weight against her neck and shoulders. Water runs into her eyes and down the back of her collar. She stands in it, still. Vance grabs her arm, not with brute force, with the particular calculated pressure of a man who has done this enough times to know exactly how much force registers as control without registering as abuse on a dashcam, and turns her toward the hood of the Civic. Vance, hands on the car. She places them flat on the wet metal. The cold of the hood bites through her palms. Rain hammers her back like an accusation. Vance moves to her pockets. His hands go to the hoodie's front pocket. He finds the credentials. He pulls them out, holds them under the flashlight. A private security badge, laminated card, photo. It's her, of course, but a slightly different her. Kesha Lawson. A small security firm out of Atlanta. The kind of firm that exists. Vance is quiet for a moment. Then he laughs. It is a short sound, ugly and complete. It contains several things at once: contempt, relief, and the specific pleasure of someone who has just been given permission to continue. Rants, mostly to himself, but loud enough. A mole cop. We got ourselves a mole cop, ladies and gentlemen. He reaches for his handcuffs. Alana, officer, I want to advise you that this stop, the metallic click-click of the cuffs, cuts the sentence cleanly. He cinches the first cuff. The ratchet tightens with machine precision, and then one more click past precision into the territory of message. The metal bites into the thin skin above her wrist bones, a pressure that is not quite pain but announces its intention to become pain. She does not cry out. A hand on her shoulder, firm, directing, and her knees find the mud at the road's shoulder. Cold mud. the consistency of something that has been here much longer than tonight. It swallows her jeans to the knee and stays there. She does not struggle. She stares ahead at the rain-blurred highway, at the orange pulse of the Civic's hazards, at the nothing beyond the headlights. She's memorizing everything. The time, the dashcam position, the exact words, the mud temperature, the pressure of the cuffs, the laugh. She is already building the case. The Oak Creek Police Department occupies a building that was constructed in 1987 and has not been significantly renovated since. The facade is brick, the kind of institutional red brick that communicates permanence without ever quite managing dignity. The American flag out front hangs limp and soaked in the rain. The parking lot has 3 light fixtures, one of which has been burned out for so long the department has stopped filing work orders about it. The air inside the precinct is a specific atmosphere, a compound event of stale coffee, old tobacco smoke absorbed into walls over 3 decades, and beneath all of it something institutional and sour, the smell of a building that has processed too many people and been indifferent to all of them. The fluorescent lights overhead produce a flat, pallid light that does no one any favors. One tube flickers at irregular intervals. Not consistently, not on a pattern, just occasionally, the way a sick thing occasionally asserts itself. Sturgeon and Aaron Millen sits behind the booking desk, 55, reading glasses pushed to the end of his nose, a paper coffee cup in one hand and a crossword puzzle under the other. He's the kind of man who reached the rank he wanted and stopped entirely, not through incompetence, but through a complete, settled comfort with where he landed. He finished the game 20 years ago and has been running up the clock in contentment ever since. He looks up when the door opens. Vance walks Alana through the entrance with one hand on her arm. Her jeans are still dark with mud from the knee down. Her hoodie drips onto the linoleum with each step, leaving a trail. Vance is moving with more energy now. The strut has been upgraded to something closer to a parade. This is the part he enjoys most: the delivery, the arrival, the presentation of the catch. Vance, Sergeant. Got us a live one. Miller, setting down his cup, reading the room. What's the charge? Vance, suspicion of possession. Possible trafficking. Probable cause stop on 95 at the marker 81. She's got a mall cop badge, out-of-state plates, and a very interesting attitude. Miller removes his reading glasses. Studies Alana. Alana looks back at him. Her face is perfectly neutral. Not defiant. Defiance would give them something to push against. Not frightened. Fear would give them the confirmation they want. Just present. Level. The expression of a person who has decided that what is happening is a data point, and not a crisis. Miller's eyes move back to his paperwork. Millen, Booker. He picks up the crossword. 2 officers drift over from a table in the far corner. Denenwy and Harris, mid-30s, the comfortable slouch of men who have spent too many night shifts playing cards. They look at Alana. Denny smirks. Officer Denenwy, she give you trouble, Greg. Vance, nah. She thinks she's somebody. Mall security. The laughter that follows does not need the thing to be funny. It just needs a direction. They have found a direction. Vance leans against the booking counter now, arms crossed, the posture of a man settling in. Vance, to Alana, the way a teacher addresses a student who has failed to grasp the obvious. You know what happens to drug mules in this county. Let me save you some time. We've got a DA who is personally motivated, not professionally, personally. He ran on a law and order platform 3 times and he intends to run a 4th. You know what that means for someone in your position? He leans closer. His breath, stale coffee, traces of tobacco, the day-old sourness of a man who believes proximity is power, arrives before the words do. Vance, 20 years minimum, trafficking, on top of possession. You got a pension you're hoping for? A security company that's going to back you up? Kiss it goodbye. He straightens. Vance, you're a statistic to me, sweetheart. You understand what that means? It means when I write my report tonight, I won't remember your name by morning. That's how insignificant this is. That's how small you are in the machinery of what's about to happen to you. The room has gone quiet in the particular way of men who enjoy watching something without wanting to be responsible for it. Alana turns her head, looks at Vance, holds the look for 2 full seconds, not with anger, not with fear, with the calm, assessing gaze of someone running an internal calculation. Alana, can I ask you something? Vance, you can ask. Alana, what time does Sergeant Miller's shift end? Silence. Vance's expression doesn't change on the surface, but something behind his eyes shifts. A small, uncomfortable recalibration. The question is wrong, off script. People in her position don't ask about shift schedules. Vance, what? Alana, just curious about how the department runs. What time does the sergeant typically wrap up his evening? Miller looks up from his crossword. His reading glasses come off. He studies Alana for a longer moment than before. There is something in his expression that is not quite suspicion and not quite curiosity. Something between the two, a slight recalibration of what he expected to be looking at versus what he finds himself looking at. But it does not rise into action. He has spent 20 years in this building making the comfortable choice, and the comfortable choice remains the comfortable choice, regardless of what his instincts might be saying from a long, quiet distance. His crossword goes face down. Millen to Vance, slowly. Everything clean on the stop? Vance, textbook. Millen, K9. Vance, Callahan's running it now. Millen, fine. Booker. He picks up his reading glasses, puts them back on, picks up his crossword, returns to it. This is the thing about men like Miller. They do not commit to the acts. They commit to the distance. They sign nothing, say nothing, order nothing directly. They simply do not ask questions, do not look at what is laid in front of them, do not stop what is moving. And that absence, that careful, deliberate, practiced absence, is its own form of conspiracy. Vance, recovering louder than necessary. Booker, interrogation. 2. They begin walking her deeper into the building. Past the card table. Past the dispatch window. Past the copier that hums even when nothing is printing. Past Miller's desk with its surface of paper and empty cups. And, in the corner, a black desk phone. Standard issue. Waiting. Alana looks at the phone as she passes. Alana. Not to anyone in particular, conversationally, the way someone mentions weather. In about 1 hour, the phone on that desk is going to ring. Denny almost laughs. Harris looks at his partner, Alana. And when it does, Sergeant Miller is going to turn very, very pale. The door to interrogation 2 closes. The hydraulic seal of it makes a sound like a long, slow exhale. The room is a deliberate instrument. It is small. Not accidentally small. Not small because the building ran out of space, but small by design, because small rooms do something to the autonomic nervous system that large rooms do not. They trigger an ancient architecture in the human brain, a calculation that runs below consciousness and produces the same result every time: danger, constriction, no exit. The walls are the yellow-white of teeth that have been allowed to go. There is a table, metal, bolted to the floor, its surface scratched with the residue of decades of elbows and fists and the occasional forehead pressed in despair. 2 chairs. The camera on the wall blinks its small red eye every 3 seconds with the patience of something that does not get tired. And the heat. The thermostat has been set to produce an atmosphere that sits just past comfortable, not hot enough to report, but warm enough that within 20 minutes the air feels like it has been used by someone else. The humidity is specific. It is the humidity of a room from which the oxygen is slowly being negotiated away. Combined with the wet clothing, the mud still drying on her jeans, and the physical aftermath of the roadside stop, the effect is calculated and total. It is designed to make people want to end their experience of the room, to sign, to confess, to give up something in exchange for a change of conditions. Alana sits in the metal chair, hands cuffed in front of her, wet clothes pressed against the heat. She takes one slow breath. She looks at the camera. The red light blinks. She looks away, and then, slowly, with the naturalness of someone absently checking the time, she looks down at her left wrist. at the battered Casio watch, the cracked display face, the plastic strap. 23:14. She presses two buttons simultaneously, her thumb and index finger, both working from the natural angle of someone just straightening the strap. The motion takes less than a second. Beneath the cracked plastic face, in the space between the display layer and the circuit board, a space that has been modified by people who are very good at their jobs, a component completes a connection. A signal fires upward through the roof of the building, through the rain-weighted clouds, and bounces off a satellite that is not on any commercial registry. It arrives at its destination in 0.3 seconds. The room is warm. Alana is still. She waits. The door opens. Vance enters. He has changed nothing about himself in the intervening time. Same uniform, same expression, same deliberate physicality. He pulls the chair from across the table and sits on it backward, arms draped over the back. The posture of a man demonstrating that he is comfortable in this room and expects her not to be. He sets a manila folder on the table. It contains 2 documents and a great deal of empty space. She reads this in the half-second he allows her before covering it with his forearm. Vance, let's talk about what's in your car. Alana, there's nothing in my car. Vance, that's funny, because our K9 unit is out there right now, and I'll tell you something about that dog. He is extremely talented. He has an impeccable record. He has never once failed to find what we need him to find. He lets that sit. Vance, sign this. He pushes a form across the table. Consent to search. The paper is slightly damp at one corner, from his palm, or from the general atmosphere of the room. Vance, you cooperate. You make this easy. I can talk to the DA. I can maybe turn 20 years into 10, maybe into 5. You're a young woman. You could still have a life when you get out. A real one. Alana, I'm not signing anything. Vance, leaning forward, voice dropping. You don't seem to understand your situation. Alana, I understand it completely. Vance, then help me understand why you're not scared. Because I have done this a long time, and people who sit in that chair and are not scared are one of 2 things, stupid or guilty. So I'll ask you again, which one are you? She looks at him with that expression for a long moment. And then she looks down at her watch again. 23:31. She looks back up. Alana, can I ask you something? Vance, leaning back slightly. The posture of a man performing patience. Go ahead. Alana, Interstate 95. Mile marker 74 to mile marker 91. How many traffic stops did your unit conduct in that corridor in the last fiscal year? The room does not change. The camera blinks. The heat hisses in through the vent. But something behind Vance's eyes performs a small involuntary movement. Not fear, not yet. Just the beginning of an adjustment. The first moment of a calculation he did not expect to be making. Vance, carefully. That's a strange question. Alana, you don't have to answer it. I already know. 412 stops, predominantly out-of-state plates. The drivers were, in 68% of cases, traveling alone. Average stop duration of 22 minutes, well above state average. Cash seizures recorded in 308 of those stops. She watches him. He is very still. Alana, the average seizure was $8,400. No criminal charges filed in 63% of seizure cases. The money doesn't go to the county general fund. It goes to a departmental discretionary account. Account number ending in 7741, held at First Southern Community Bank, signatory, Aaron Miller. Vance, very quietly, who are you? Alana, I'm the woman you pulled out of the mud on the side of the highway. She holds his gaze. Alana, civil asset forfeiture. It's an elegant system when you think about it. Legally, you're not charging the person, you're charging the property. The cash. The car. The person can be released and still lose everything they had, and they have almost no recourse because they're from out of state. They don't know your legal ecosystem. They can't afford the kind of lawyer who would know how to fight it. So they leave, and the money stays. Vance stands. His chair scrapes back with a sound like a stone dragged across concrete. Vance, voice rising. You don't know what you're talking about. Alana. Sergeant Miller's boat is registered in his wife's maiden name, Mueller. Mualer. It was purchased 14 months ago for $47,000 cash. He doesn't have a second job. Vance, moving toward her. You need to stop talking. Right now. Alana, I am the law in this town. She says it quietly, not as a threat, as an observation, echoing his own words back to him with a neutrality that is more devastating than any contempt. Vance, voiced shaking now, not with fear, with fury, which is what fear looks like on men like him. You don't come into my house and tell me how to run my department. You don't. You have no idea who you are dealing with. I've been doing this for 17 years. I have the DA. I have the mayor. I have the entire county machine behind me. And you are sitting in handcuffs in my interrogation room, and you are nothing. You are a mole cop and a drug mule and a statistic. The building shudders. It begins below the threshold of sound, a feeling first, a vibration that the chair transmits through the floor, through the bolts that hold the table to the concrete, through the soles of 2 feet flat on linoleum, the kind of vibration that old buildings absorb through their foundations before the ears have anything to work with. The fluorescent tube above the table begins to buzz in its housing. The empty paper coffee cup that Vance brought in earlier trembles and falls from the edge of the table. The documents in the manila folder ripple at their corners. Vance looks at the ceiling. 3 distinct rotors. 3 overlapping frequencies building toward each other with the relentless arithmetic of approaching machinery. It is the sound of something that does not negotiate, does not compromise, does not care about the weather or the hour or what anyone inside the building was in the middle of saying. The windows at the end of the hallway begin to rattle in their frames. Not violently, steadily, rhythmically, with the patient insistence of something very large and very close. Vance, to himself, then louder. What is INT? OK, Creed PD, ballpen, continuous. Miller is on his feet. His reading glasses have fallen to the desk. His crossword is forgotten. He is at the window with Denny and Harris, all 3 of them pressed toward the glass like men who have forgotten the existence of outside. Den NY, Sergeant. Miller. I see it. Ext. OAK PD. Parking slot. Continuous. 3 Sikorsky UH-60 Blackhawks descend from the dark sky in a tight formation that speaks of coordination practiced until it became automatic. Their landing lights fire down in solid columns, and where each column strikes the parking lot, night becomes flat white noon. The rain vaporizes in the rotor wash before it can hit the ground, turned to mist, turned to nothing. The hedges along the perimeter are flattened and held flat. A traffic cone skips 30 feet across the wet asphalt and disappears under a patrol car. A flag tears from its retaining clip and is gone. They land with a precision that makes landing look effortless. The rotors are still spinning when the doors open. In T. OAK PD Ford 1 Slowby. Continuous. The lobby doors come inward. 12 operators from the FBI's hostage rescue team enter the building. They move in 2-man pairs with the fluid, overlapping efficiency of people for whom a room is a problem to be solved in the first 4 seconds or not at all. Ballistic masks. Full plate carriers. N4 carbines raised and indexed at targets that are being assessed and cleared simultaneously. The noise of their boots on the linoleum is a sound like hammers hitting wet sandbags. 12 hammers at once, percussive and absolute, the sound of an argument being ended. HRT operator. FBI. Nobody move. Hands where I can see them. Hands up. Now. Miller's hands go up. The paper coffee cup hits the floor and rolls under the desk. His face has gone the color of something left in a refrigerator too long. Gray-white, waxy, a color that human faces should not be capable of. Denny's hands go up. He takes 1 step backward and his heel catches a chair leg, and he almost goes down. Harris is already against the wall, hands high, eyes wide, entirely still. 2 operators peel off toward the interrogation corridor. 2 more station at the exits. The remaining 8 hold the room with the calm, comprehensive authority of people who have done this before and expect exactly nothing to surprise them. Deputy Director David Ross enters last. He is 53 years old, silver at the temples. Dark suit that appears impossibly to be entirely dry despite the rain outside. He carries no weapon. He doesn't need one. He has the bearing of a man who arrived at his conclusion some time ago and is now simply supervising their execution. He walks into the room without urgency, looks at Miller, looks at Denny, looks at the crossword on the desk, the reading glasses beside it, the cold coffee. He walks to the desk, picks up the phone, dials a 4-digit extension from memory. INT, OAKPD, interrogation, rooming 2. Continuous. The phone on the wall rings. Alana looks at it. Vance looks at it. The red camera light blinks. The phone rings again. Alana, conversationally, as though she is discussing nothing in particular. You should probably get that. Vance doesn't move. He is staring at the phone with the specific paralysis of a man whose internal model of the world has just been informed that it is wrong. The door opens. 2 HRT operators enter. They are significantly larger than Vance in the particular way of people whose physical dimensions are a secondary feature of a more comprehensive capability. Their weapons are not raised. They don't need to be. The room has already been solved. HRT operator, Officer Vance, step away from the table. Vance moves back. His hand begins its ancient automatic journey toward his belt, toward the weapon that lives there. The motion is not conscious. It is 17 years of muscle memory reacting to the presence of a threat. HRT operator, sir. Do not touch your weapon. Keep your hands where I can see them. Vance's hand drops. It falls to his side and stays there, slightly apart from his body. The hand of a man who doesn't know what to do with his hands when the thing they've always reached for has been removed from the available options. INT. UK Craig PD. Bullpen. Cornelius Ross sets the phone down. He straightens his jacket. He moves toward the interrogation corridor with the unhurried pace of someone who has a destination and no particular concern about the journey. He passes Miller without looking at him. He passes Denny without looking at him. He passes Harris without looking at him. He arrives at the door of Interrogation Room 2. Opens it. INT. UAC Crack BD. Interrogation. Room 2. Continuous. He looks at Alana. His expression does not change. His eyes move across her with the rapid professional assessment of someone accounting for her condition. The mud on the jeans, the too tight marks the cuffs have left on her wrists, the wet hair, the heat-flushed skin, and completing the inventory without effect. Ross, director. He steps aside. An operator steps forward. The handcuffs are removed with a precision that suggests they have been removed from important people before. The metallic snap of the ratchet releasing is a small sound. In the room's silence, it is enormous. Alana stands. She rolls her wrists. The pressure marks from the cuffs are visible. Red-pink indentations, the souvenirs of the evening. She looks at them for a moment. Then she reaches into the inside pocket of the faded hoodie. She produces an FBI windbreaker. Compact folded, flat, the kind of fold that preserves maximum concealment in minimum space. She shakes it out. The gold letters catch the fluorescent light as it unfurls. Federal Bureau of Investigation. She pulls it on over the hoodie, smooths it down, draws the zipper from the waist to the collar in one smooth motion. She turns. Vance is against the wall. His hands are at his sides. He is looking at the windbreaker, at the gold letters, at the person who has been in this room with him for the past hour and who he has understood completely incorrectly from the first moment of the stop. His face is no longer the face of a man who controls rooms. It is the face of something underwater. Gray-green and bloodless, the color of a man whose internal model of the world has not just been corrected, but demolished. His mouth is slightly open, not to speak, just open, the way a thing opens when the mechanism that held it has been removed. He is smaller than anyone in the room expected. He was always smaller. The uniform made him a certain size. Without its authority, he is simply a man in a hallway. Alana looks at him. She takes her time. She has all the time now. Alana, Officer Vance. He swallows. The sound of it is audible. Alana. My name is Alana Hayes. I am the director of the FBI's Southeast Asset Forfeiture Task Force. I have been embedded in this corridor, in this character, for 11 consecutive weeks. Your unit has been under active federal surveillance for 9 of those weeks. The vehicle I was driving tonight contains recording equipment that has been operational since I entered Oak Creek County. The dash cam footage from your cruiser, combined with the body cam footage from tonight's stop, is already in federal evidence custody. She takes one step toward him. Alana, the marijuana you detected. I need you to write that down. In your report, your full official report. I need it in detail. Specific. Thorough. What you smelled. When you smelled it. The exact articulation of your probable cause. Another step. Alana. Because the evidence your unit planted in my vehicle, and the forensic chain of custody that will demonstrate it was planted, by whom and when, is going to be Exhibit A. She is close enough now that she can see the specific geography of his face at this moment. The lines around his eyes, the slight movement in his jaw as he processes and fails to process what is happening. The way his breathing has changed. Shallower now, the involuntary response of a nervous system receiving information that the conscious mind hasn't yet integrated. She has seen this face before. Different men, different rooms, different towns, but the same face. The face that appears when the machinery a person has trusted completely reveals itself to be running in a direction they never considered. Alana, you told me I was a statistic. She lets that breathe, lets it exist in the room with all the other things that have been said in this room tonight. Alana, Officer Vance, you are now a federal case file, and unlike the files your unit generates about other people, the ones that disappear, the ones that never result in charges, the ones attached to money that was taken and never returned, yours will be thorough. It will be reviewed. It will be remembered. She turns to Ross. Alana, I want his full shift history for the last 4 years. I want every stop log within that corridor. And I want a subpoena for his personal accounts. Both of them. Ross, already initiated. Alana, back to Vance. The men you called statistics. The ones whose cash you took on the side of a highway. The ones who drove home with empty consoles and no receipts and no one to call. Their names are in our file too. Vance says nothing. He has nothing left to say with. Alana, Officer Vance, you are now a federal case file. And unlike the files you generate, yours will be remembered. The precinct has been converted. The transformation between what it was at 11 o'clock and what it is now is the transformation between a local business and a crime scene, and the difference is comprehensive and absolute. Evidence technicians in blue nitrile gloves move through the space with methodical, unhurried purpose. The pace of people who are not racing because they don't need to race. Desk drawers have been emptied and inventoried. Filing cabinets stand open. Laptops have been bagged individually, labeled and placed in transport cases. The servers from the closet off the hallway, the department's filing system, its email archive, its dispatch records going back 4 years, have been removed with surgical care and are on a cart beside the door. Ross stands at Miller's desk with a tablet in one hand. He's reading from it the way he reads everything. Quickly, completely, with minimal visible reaction. An agent approaches. FBI Agent Siege. Forensics is in the parking lot staging. Digital team is ready for transport. We've got a full mirror of everything on the department's network from the past 72 hours. They didn't wipe it when we came in, which means they didn't know we were coming. Ross. Good. FBI Agent Sheen. We've also got 4 years of dispatch logs and the full text of every email account on the system. There are some interesting conversations between Miller and a municipal email address for the mayor's office going back to 2021. Ross, still reading, flag everything with a dollar amount. Anything that references out-of-state stops by name. And I need a separate folder for the discretionary account transactions. FBI Agent Sheen. Already started. Ross's phone buzzes. He reads it, sets the phone face down. Ross, to the room. They found the black ledger. Alana, across the room, doesn't look up from the documents she is reviewing. Alana, storage unit on 5th Street. Russ, how did you know about the storage unit? Alana, 4 weeks ago. Miller's wife made a call she thought was to her sister. The number had been forwarded. She mentioned a storage unit in the context of some items she wanted moved before winter. She said Aaron keeps his records there because he doesn't like digital. She turns a page. Alana, old-fashioned in some ways. Ross, almost smiling. You could have mentioned the storage unit earlier. Alana, I wanted to make sure everything else was in position first. The ledger without the Cerber data is half a story. Together, they're the whole thing. She sets down the documents and looks around the room, at the agents, at the open filing cabinets, at Miller sitting in a chair against the far wall, with his hands cuffed behind him, staring at the floor with the expression of a man trying to remember who he was before tonight. INT. Federal Evidence Processing Storage Unit on 5th. Night portable floodlights illuminate a standard 10 by 10 storage unit. Cardboard boxes stacked in a grid. Tools along one wall, and on the top shelf of a metal rack, behind a toolbox and beneath a folded tarp, a black composition notebook. An evidence technician removes the tarp, removes the toolbox, photographs everything before touching anything. She removes the notebook with gloved hands, places it on the evidence table, opens it. The pages are dense, meticulous, the handwriting of a careful man. Small, precise letters, columns of numbers aligned with ruler straightness. Dates going back to 2019. Stop locations. Vehicle descriptions. Cash amounts. Initials, and in the right margin of each entry, a letter code corresponding to a distribution. M for Miller, V for Vance, D for departmental account, and one letter that appears infrequently, in entries above a certain threshold amount, written in slightly heavier ink. S. The evidence technician photographs the cover. Photographs the spine. Photographs each page in sequence, moving through the years one entry at a time. 4 years of stops. 4 years of stops. 4 years of seizures. 4 years of people who drove through the wrong county on the wrong night and lost something they had worked for and had no mechanism to recover. The ledger is 174 pages long. She photographs all of them. INT. Federal Evidence Processing Center. Day later. An analyst lays the entries out in a spreadsheet, each stop cross-referenced against the department's official records, and the discrepancies begin to appear almost immediately. Stops that appear in the ledger but not in official logs. Seizure amounts that appear in the ledger at a higher number than in the filed paperwork. The difference between what was taken and what was reported. The remainder, traced through the account codes, flows in a consistent direction. The spreadsheet grows. The picture clarifies. By the end of the second day, the analyst has identified 43 separate incidents of evidence record falsification and one recurring letter code, S, that corresponds to a single recurring recipient who appears in none of the official paperwork. She flags it, sends it up the chain. It lands, eventually, on Alana's desk. Alana reads the analyst's note, looks at the letter code, looks at the amount attached to entries bearing that code. She picks up her phone. Alana, into the phone, pulled the financial disclosure filings for every elected official in Oak Creek County going back 5 years. Cross-referenced them against the S-coded entries in the ledger. Call me when you have a name. She hangs up. She already has a name. She wants the paper to have it independently. 18 hours later, the paper has it. Off to Maeve Stern, Mayor, Oak Creek County, recipient of irregular cash payments totaling $412,000 over 4 years, deposited through a network of 3 separate LLC accounts that trace ultimately to his personal holdings. The case file closes. The arrest warrant opens. EXT. OK. Preak PT. Parking slot, night. Vance is walked to a federal transport vehicle by 2 agents. He has been relieved of his belt, his badge, his weapon, his phone, and the keys to a vehicle registered to a shell company that the task force has been tracking for 8 months. He walks with his head slightly down, not quite in shame because shame requires reflection he is not yet capable of, but in the posture of a man who has been abruptly and completely separated from the structures that told him what size he was. Without those structures, he is discovering what remains. Less than he believed, more than nothing. Alana is crossing the parking lot toward the command vehicle. Their paths intersect near the transport van. He stops. The agents pause. Vance, something different in his voice now. Smaller, without performance. I didn't know it would go this far. Alana stops, looks at him. Alana, no one ever does. A beat. Alana, that's the design. She continues walking. He is loaded into the transport vehicle. The door closes. E9. Federal dirt. Day. Months later. A federal courtroom. Wood-paneled. Formal and deliberate in the way of rooms built to convey the gravity of permanent decisions. The gallery is full. Journalists, community members, a few of the out-of-state drivers who once lost their savings on a stretch of Interstate 95 and drove home with nothing and no explanation they could give to anyone. The judge reads from a sentencing document. She reads efficiently because the document is long. Judge. On the count of conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law, the court finds the sentence guidelines clear and the aggravating factors substantial. On the count of racketeering under the RICO statute, the evidentiary record is among the most comprehensive this court has reviewed in 14 years on the bench. On the count of evidence fabrication in relation to the stop and detention of a federal officer, she pauses, looks up at Vance over the rim of her glasses. Judge Gregory Allen Vance. It is the judgment of this court that you be sentenced to a term of 45 years in a federal correctional institution, without the possibility of parole, the specific facility to be designated by the Bureau of Prisons. Vance stands at the defense table. His lawyer sits beside him but is currently occupying a different universe. 45 years arranges itself inside Vance's mind and finds no architecture capable of holding it. He is 52 years old. The math does the rest. The gavel descends. Ext. Hargrove Ballroom. Oka Creets, Evening. Montsevier. The annual Oak Creek Municipal Gala. String lights draped across the facade. Valets in black jackets. Women in gowns. Men in dark suits. The annual ceremony through which a town's power structure gathers to remind itself of its permanence, its solidity, its continuation. Mayor Arthur Sterling, 61, white-haired, the easy handsomeness of a man who has been photographed favorably for decades, moves through the room with the practiced warmth of someone who has been shaking hands since before some of these hands were born. He laughs at things with the conviction of a man who decided years ago that laughing at things is good policy. He is mid-sentence with the county commissioner when he sees the figures at the ballroom entrance. 4 agents. Dark suits. Credentials visible from across the room. The badge case is open and deliberate, positioned to be seen, and Alana Hayes, in the FBI windbreaker, moving through the room with the unhurried stride of someone who has already won and is now simply completing the formality of delivery. The room notices, not all at once, the way sound travels through water, reaching different people at different depths. The conversation dims from one side of the room to the other, going from music to static to silence. The string quartet in the corner plays 3 more bars before the first violinist turns to look. Then they stop too. Sterling's smile does not fall. He has kept that smile through 40 years of difficult moments. Tax investigations, campaign finance questions, difficult press cycles, 2 divorces, 3 recounts, 1 recall petition that he buried in committee. He survived all of them with this smile, which is not a smile at all but a tool, a technology, something he constructed and refined over 4 decades until it operates entirely independently of whatever is happening inside him. But as Alana closes the distance, as she moves through the parting crowd without looking at any of the faces turning toward her, as he reads her face and finds in it a specific quality, not triumph, not contempt, not the anger of a confrontation, but simply certainty, the smile loses its source. It stays on his face the way a light stays on briefly after the power has been cut. Then it goes dark. Alana, Mayor Sterling. She stops in front of him. She's a foot shorter than him. She looks up at him with the expression of someone who is no longer measuring anything. Alana, Arthur James Sterling. You are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights under color of law, federal racketeering in violation of Title 18, United States Code Section 1962, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and tax fraud in connection with undisclosed income derived from departmental discretionary fund distributions totaling $412,000 across 41 months. An agent moves to his right side, another to his left. A third takes the champagne glass from his hand, gently, as though it might break, and sets it on a passing tray. Sterling turns, one full slow rotation, surveying the room. The commissioner, his chief of staff, his wife standing near the bar with an expression that is not yet grief and not yet relief, but is something navigating between the two. The caterers and the bartenders and the donors and the journalists, and the 160 people who have gathered tonight to celebrate a town that has been run for 22 years on the quiet economics of a ledger hidden in a storage unit on 5th Street. He opens his mouth. He closes it. He has spent his entire adult life being the person who speaks last in a room, who has the final word, who shapes the narrative after everyone else has offered theirs. For the first time in 22 years, he has nothing to add. The narrative is complete without him. It has been complete for some time, and only now has he arrived at the ending. The handcuffs close, the metallic click-click of them, small, precise, final, carries through the ballroom's silence like a note struck on glass. An agent guides him toward the exit. He walks. He does not resist, which surprises some people in the room and surprises no one who has watched powerful men when the power is removed. They walk, mostly. They go quietly. The fight was in the hiding, and the hiding is over. Alana watches him go. Then she turns and begins to move back through the crowd. People step aside, not from fear, from something adjacent to awe, the instinctive deference paid to someone who has just demonstrated an authority that no uniform was required to establish. She walks out into the night. The string lights above the entrance swing in a light wind. It has stopped raining. In Federal Correctional Institution. General population. Day later. The common room of a federal correctional institution is a specific geography. Linoleum that has been cleaned 10,000 times, fluorescent lights mounted high and caged and never turned off, rows of tables, a television in the upper corner running on mute with subtitles, the sound of other people existing in close quarters, a comprehensive, unceasing sound that becomes a kind of silence itself. Vance enters the common room for the first time. He is in standard issue. The buzz cut has grown out, and no one has replaced it. The gray is spreading now, filling in the temples and moving beyond them. The jawline is the same, but the authority it once projected was a product of the uniform, the belt, the badge, the gun, the building, the town, the county, the system. Without those things, the jawline is just a jawline. He is nobody here. In 17 years of law enforcement, this is a thing he has never been. He stands at the entrance to the common room and surveys it the way he used to survey the roadside at a traffic stop, assessing, categorizing, constructing a picture of who holds what. Men look up from tables, from cards, from the television. The assessment runs both ways. 3 men stand up from a corner table. They stand without hurry. There is nowhere else to be, and they all know it. They move toward him with the specific patience of people who have had a long time to think about this moment. The man in front was stopped on Interstate 95 at mile marker 81 on a Tuesday evening in October, 3 years ago. He was driving his uncle's cargo van, delivering equipment for a small landscaping business. His uncle's business that his family had built over 11 years. He had $14,000 in the center console in a bank envelope, a payroll advance, cash from clients, every dollar legitimate and earned and documented. He watched it disappear into an evidence bag. He was released without charge. No arrest, no crime, just the money gone, like smoke. He drove home and sat in his driveway for a long time before going inside. He never forgot the officer's face. He has been looking at that face across this room for the past 30 seconds. Vance, under his breath, very quietly, "Oh no." The door to the common room closes behind him. The long hydraulic hiss of it is patient and complete. It closes the way things close when they are designed to stay closed. Rain again. It might be a different storm, or it might be the same one, stretched across time the way some storms stretch, the kind that parks itself over a region and rains for days, as though it has decided something and intends to follow through. A rental car moves through the downpour. Clean, anonymous. The kind of car that makes no argument for itself. Alana sits in the passenger seat. An agent drives. She is looking out the window at the pine trees pressed back into the dark beyond the shoulder, at the mile markers emerging one by one from the rain and disappearing just as quickly. Her left hand rests on the window ledge. The Casio watch is still on her wrist. 23:47. She has been thinking about the next assignment for 3 days. About the corridor, the patterns, the specific way that corruption reproduces itself when it goes unchallenged. The way it expands to fill the available space, becomes invisible through familiarity, begins to believe it is inevitable, begins to believe it is infrastructure. She has seen it in 7 counties across 4 states. The same basic architecture. A corridor. A pretext. A judge who does not ask questions. An account that is not quite official and not quite personal. A system that works because it targets people who are unlikely to fight back, who come from somewhere else, who will cut their losses and drive home and never speak to a lawyer who knows what civil forfeiture means. She is thinking about how it always looks the same from the outside. An ordinary stretch of highway. An ordinary car. An ordinary night. A woman alone, driving through the rain, going from one place to another. She is thinking about the next assignment, the next corridor, the next officer with a flashlight and a rehearsed story and a belief that the woman in the dented car is no one. The Casio watch blinks on her wrist. The cracks display. The plastic strap. The circuitry inside that does not look like what it is. She turns to look forward, through the windshield, into the clean black highway ahead. The road opens up into nothing. Pure wet asphalt extending beyond the reach of the headlights, into the dark where the next town sits and waits. Alana, quietly to herself, to no one, to the rain. They won't see a tactical team coming. The headlights cut forward into the dark. Alana. They'll just see a woman alone on the highway. A single beat. Rain on the roof. The road going on. Alana, a target. Fade to black. Gestapo Chato. In the United States, civil asset forfeiture allows law enforcement agencies to seize cash and property without a criminal conviction. In 2023 alone, federal agencies seized more than $2.5 billion in assets. Reform efforts are currently active in 42 states. In many jurisdictions, the burden of proof remains on the property owner to reclaim what was taken. Fade out.